It's July 16th, Tuesday, and we will be interviewing evangelist Chris Williams for the Voicing in Action project at Case Western Reserve University Social Justice Institute. Okay, Chris, could you tell me something about yourself and the history of your family?
Well, first of all, I'm honored to be interviewed by you, because I know your works. We were raised, my family came up on Huff Avenue in 1950. I was born in 1950. And in the same year, we moved from Scoville to Huff. And that's where I was raised. And I was raised by my great-grandmother. Her name was Annie Legg. And we came up in a mixed neighborhood. At that particular time, there was very few blacks in the neighborhood, but we were changing the scene because we were the first family to live in the area, a black family to live in that area, besides a neighbor. We got along pretty good with everybody, and my great-grandmother taught us the right ways to respect everybody, and that all people can be good, but there's bad among everybody, and that we should not judge the whole people for just because of somebody being bad, whether it was race, whether it was creed or color. We should just be nice to everybody. In other words, treat everybody like you would like to be treated. And so Annie Legg was an elderly lady that had youth to be able to chastise us in the right way, spare not the rod, but doing the right things, make sure we are corrected, make sure we did school the way we were supposed to do school, do homework like we were supposed to, and acknowledge God above all things. Yeah. And so, that's the way we were raised.
And you called her Annie?
Annie. Her name was Annie Legg.
Okay. And she was like a neighborhood?
No, she was my great-grandmother.
Oh, she was your great-grandmother?
Yeah, she was the one that raised us.
Okay, so if your great-grandmother was raising you, your mother and father had passed by then?
No. This is, my mother and father were separated.
Okay.
So there was an accident where my mother got in a very bad accident and she couldn't raise me. And so my great-grandmother took me and raised me.
Yeah. At that time, families were close, and it was typical for families to jump in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, my great-grandmother ended up raising most of the kids in the family. And then when they were all old enough, then their mamas came and got them so they could help them do some things in the house and stuff. But we stayed with our great-grandmother, me and my brother and my sister.
That was over in the
Huff area, 88th and Huff, to Dead End Street. Mm-hmm. Same one that Lou Ross made a record about.
Uh-huh. So you were born in Cleveland?
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you was coming up in a Huff neighborhood, what school did you go to?
I went to Huff Elementary, and then I went to Addison Junior High,
mm-hmm.
and then I ended up going to East Tech for one day.
One day?
Yes, because they sent me all the way from past East High School, John Hay,
mm-hmm.
to send me to East Tech because they thought that was the type of person I would fit in with their environment over there. But I ended up getting transferred back to John Hay because it was so far to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And you had brothers and sisters?
Yes, I do. I have my older sister has passed, Kathy has passed, and my brother, T, he lives in Denver, Colorado.
So it was three of you?
There were other ones, but, my mother got involved a lot, and so some of our sisters and brothers got scattered around. A brother named Clarence, I don't know if he's still alive or not, and actually he's the oldest. And so sometimes a dysfunctional family. If the parents are kind of dysfunctional, then there will be dysfunction in the family. But by us living with our great grandmother, even the sister that I call my sister was actually my cousin, because she had a problem at the time with her mother. And so my great grandmother took her in. And so by all of us being raised in the same house, we were brothers and sisters. So actually me and my brother and my cousin was my sister. And we were raised all in the same house, raised by the same standards. We all went to church. We all did what we was known to do was good. When all the families that we came out of, the ones that were disconnected to us, didn't have that foundation. We had that foundation. We had the godly foundation.
So Miss Annie must have been a very strong person. Because you talk about your grandmother, she was your great-grandmother.
She's my great-grandmother.
What about your grandfather? Was he around?
She had no husband, no.
Oh,
No.
So,
I had a grandfather and a grandmother, and they were together, but the generation, I guess the way that happened is everything that God took us to the one that he wanted us to be raised by. Because all three of us came up better than all the rest of the kids. Because I believe that was God's will. Because with her, we all had a foundation in the Lord. And that's what gave us the desire to be the people that we are today. Even with my sister passed, she was the one that was in the family that helped raise other kids that did not belong to her. In fact, she never had any kids of her own. She had other kids, and from her sister's side, from her cousin's side, different side of the families that had dysfunctional families, but she took the kids in and raised them herself. So she carried that over from my great grandmother.
Okay. That's great. Well, I know back in the day, communities had that thing that they talk about as far as it takes
A village.
a village to raise a child. I know when I was coming up, you not only had your family, but other families around. Was there other families around that you grew up around, a lot of kids in the neighborhood?
Well, there was the McIntoshes. There was the JW family. I mean, we were on a street that had about 12 houses. And the 13th house was like a little house at the end of the street because it was the dead end street. Looked like a little sheriff's house, back in the Western time.
Yeah.
But we were a family because we had that village.
Yeah.
Because if I got caught doing something with Fred or JW or something like that, or Walter, the Cheneys, or anybody, if we got caught doing something there, we got a whooping there. And then when we got home, we got a whooping. That's just the way it was. And then if it's something happened in school, we got paddled. When we got home, got a whooping. Because that's the way we were raised. It was, most of them was all, I'm not gonna say everybody was church folks, but most of the people believed in God, and they believed in spare the rod, spoil the child. So I came up in that type of environment.
What do you think about the way things are now? As far as that's the way it was when I was coming up too. I think the few whoopings I got was beneficial. I tell you what, in the long run. But today, people talk so much about not hitting the kids and things like that because of you run into so much abuse problems. What do you think about the change now?
Well, you got to know what you're whooping the child for.
Yeah.
There's things that if a kid does things and get away with it constantly and everything, they think they can do anything they want to do. But if you chastise a child for being disobedient, and you let them know, because the parents used to have a thing they said all the time, this hurts me more than it hurts you. and they would whoop us for doing something that they know that in the future would cause us problems. Like we would steal something, we would take something, we would do something. Like, I mean, when they tell you don't touch something, so they might slap you on the hand or something like that, say don't touch that. And that's not what you got a whooping for. What you got a whooping for is when you did something that they had already told you not to do, and you went and did it again. So now you got a whooping because of the fact is we've already warned you. We've already told you about this. Well, that's the same thing with God. After God gives you a warning. It's just always like this, there's a spirit that's always telling you this is wrong. You know, but when you go past that, now you're going to get the whooping. And the whooping was put in place as a punishment because they had different types of punishment. Our time out and stuff like this, we weren't able to go outside. Sometimes we had to go to bed without dinner because the fact is that we come in late, we missed the meal, and we kept on doing it. They said, okay, then you don't want to eat, you can't eat. And that was the way they punished you. And after a while, you start getting in line because they had this thing about go get a switch. Go get me a switch. Go get my belt. So you're going to go get something to beat yourself up with. So, you know, so after a while, they kind of click in your head a lot, you know, and I think that for those that came up my age had a better foundation than the ones that came after me, because those was the Dr. Spock and the McDonald age where you can do things any way you want to and say whatever you want to say, and they put you on punishment. Well, if there was no pain, there was no gain. In other words, the child figured, well, they ain't gonna do nothing to me anyway, so why should I do this? Why should I have to do that? In school, we used to, when we were coming up, the Cleveland Browns would be on, like they have off season. And when I was going to Addison Junior High and everything, I had people like Big John Wooten, which was 6'5", 300 some pounds. Jim Shorter, who was was a wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. We had all these people that were working as teachers and study hall teachers. They were, you know, this was the way they spent their time, was working in schools, helping the kids. And man, we go to school and get in trouble, and we would have to face these guys, you know, and people like John Wooten hitting you with a paddle this long with holes in them and everything, hit you 3 times, you standing up 3 days. You know, I mean, we got discipline wherever we went. And so when, you know, I mean, in the Army, wherever you went, you got discipline. On the street, you seen a policeman, you automatically just straightened up. Regardless what it is, you had respect for them. Our parents told us we had to have respect for the wineheads, you know, the drunkards, anybody that was an elder, you had to have respect for them. And so to me, I think about it nowadays where you can walk down the street and just look different than the rest of the people do, and the kids want to pick at you. They don't know if you're going to pull a gun out and shooting. You don't know about all this stuff that's going on in the world right now with all our kids killing each other and fighting each other and coming in. You look at the parents nowadays, how they walking down the street or in the stores cussing out their children. Come here, you little B. You know, and everything. Get the hell over here and all this stuff. The way they talk to them now, they don't have any respect for them. So why would the kids have respect for themselves or anybody else? Because the generation that's coming up now, well, even the one before that was even bad. The one after me got worse. After ours, after let's say the 70 baby. The 70 child, you know, where they had that freedom thing. They had gotten the freedom now, so you got the freedom, but what did you do with it? A lot of people did get a little education, but the education only did was to help them be more knowledgeable about things they might have needed to do to try to be a little bit more successful, but they kept the ghetto mentality along with it. Because you found people that sit in a nice house like this, look good, but when they open up their mouth, they could hardly talk. They could hardly carry conversation because of the ignorance of the naturalized world that they come from, that we call ghetto, was still there. They moved in different neighborhoods, but they still took that mentality with them.
Well, we were talking about school.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump up to high school. What was it like in high school at John
Um, I was one of the ones that, when I got free from my family in junior high school, I graduated junior high school, went to John Hay, but I had what you call a reputation as being a hustler because I like money. So I did some things hustling, trying to work in stores and getting to know the people, shooting pool, and doing what we do is to try to make ourselves feel good. So that kind of messed me up when I started going to school. I had a little problem with school because it seemed like they was repeating the same thing I learned in junior high school. They was repeating it and just adding stuff onto it when I got in senior high school. They were still trying to talk to me about Christopher Columbus discovered America. Well, I happen to be like a little historian. I did some things when I cut school, like a lot of people would cut school. I hate this to be on the biology, but I'm gonna tell the truth. When I cut school, I went to the museums. I went to the Natural History Museum. I went to the Art Museum, the Health Museum on 89th Street. This is where I used to cut school and go, until I got older and got to thinking about girls and stuff like that. But I would go to these schools and I would, talk to people and get a little bit of more understanding. So when I got in senior high, and they were still trying to tell me about Christopher Columbus discovered America, I asked him about, what about America Vespucius? What about Leif Erikson? And I got to ask them about different things, and I got in trouble when I got there because the same principal that I had, Mr. Johnson, in Addison Junior High went over to John Hay. So I was sitting in a class, and at this time in my life, I'm 16 years old, and I'm already into Dick Gregory. And Dick Gregory was talking about different things that happen in the world and how should we look at the world. There was no economics being taught in school. We didn't learn how to handle money, so we didn't know nothing about handling money. We didn't have a history for ourselves, and I wanted to know more about me as being a black boy. And I asked him about that. I was kind of rude in school. I would ask them questions about, don't you have anything about black history? And when they talked to me about Christopher Columbus, I told them, I said, I don't understand that. And they said, what you don't understand? I don't understand how a man can discover a country that was already people in. So who discovered before he did? So I asked him that question, and so I did one of Dick Gregory's little trick. I did something that was silly. I said, you got a car out there in the parking lot. Now, if I went out there and got in your car and drove away with it, you say I stole it. But you can tell me that this man came from Italy and Spain and went over to this country over here and started taking them people's land and everything, but he discovered it. So I got suspended. So when I got suspended, I kind of stayed out of school. 11th grade, getting kicked out and everything. So I went to work in jobs. I just started working. I started working in Quickies Meat Market. I started working other jobs, like in a hotel and everything, until I went to the Army. Yeah.
Okay. And now, when you were at John Hay, was it predominant? Well, I'm pretty sure it was predominantly black, but were there any other nationalities?
Oh yeah, there was there. Yeah, there was a few white people there.
There was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You didn't see as many of them, but it was. Yeah, because you still had them coming down from the heights, different places around there, and at that point in 1966, 67, there were still a few white people in the neighborhoods, But most of the time it was black.
How
More
about
black.
the teaching staff?
Most teaching staff was still black. You know, we had white teachers, few, you know,
But most of them was black.
black teachers, yeah.
Okay. You had mentioned you were free from your parents.
Hmm?
You had mentioned you were free when you became free from your parents. Is that what you meant?
Well, I started taking care of myself. Actually, I was about 12 years old.
Okay.
But because my great-grandmother couldn't do too much with it. She had gotten older. And when the riots came in 66, 65, 66, it burned part of the house. So my grandmother went one direction, and I went to stay with my dad for a while.
Okay.
But my dad had a situation that he had a girlfriend and all this other stuff. And I didn't feel comfortable with him. So I stayed with different people and went to school, had jobs working as a banquet houseman, working at Buy Rights, where at that time they were paying me about $25 for 2 hours worth of work.
That's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And so at that same time, that same store was the one that gave us black people credit until our families got their welfare checks or got paid or anything like that. And I was raised, like I said, I was raised more of a Christian kid, and I wasn't really the violent type or anything like that, but the riots hit that, and they burned Huff down.
Okay.
And then I got into girls. And I kind of stayed at those girls' houses and everything because I never did stay with my mother or father, but my father only for a short period of time. But I never did stay with my mother. I stayed with my great-grandmother, but my great-grandmother had moved across town, and my cousin and them were taking care of her. And so that caused me to be more on my own. So I would go to school, I would support myself, you know, and I did a pretty good job at it. You know, because my money was my money. Anybody I was staying with, as long as I was giving them some money for some food or something like that. And the people I was staying with, basically, because that question might come up, was my girlfriend's parents. Any girls that I was dating or something like that, I might stay with there until my great-grandmother got her another place, and I had a bed there. And then I was already about going on 16, going on 17 then. But before that, from about 12 on up.
So you had to grow up pretty fast.
Yeah.
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 But the good thing that your grandmother was there, or you've probably been growing up with the knowledge of with the streets.
Well, I grew up with the knowledge of the street because at 12 years old, I was already in the street at 12 years old. There's a lot of information I don't know if y'all want from me, you know, because I was already a father, not a father, but I already had a child at 12 years old,
Okay.
you know, because I was out there in the streets, and that was the lifestyle that we knew. And see, when we came up, it wasn't about, we didn't have video games and all this stuff to kind of keep us occupied with that. Is whatever you did. We played as kids and stuff like this, but if you had to kind of support yourself, you had to work. And you had to go to school because back in those days, we had delinquent officers. You know, if you was missing out of school, people went and got you and brought you to school or put you into an institution or something like that. But see, I was covered because the people where I was staying, I'm working when I get off out of school, I'm going to a job. So I'm either bringing meat home from Quickies Meat Market on 87th and Huff, or from the meat store where I was working before the riot, or from or when I was working down as a banquet houseman down at Sheridan. I'm always bringing in a little bit of money. So when you bring in a little bit of money and everything, people don't mind you because they got you in a separate bedroom and everything away from their daughters.
Okay.
You know, you sleeping on the couch or something like this because you still had to respect their household. You know, but that was off and on because I could go to my great-grandmother's house and change my clothes and stuff like that. But at that time, I had felt that freedom to just kind of be on my own a little bit. I'm running with gangsters, pimps, I'm hanging out with them. They taking me different places. I'm running a pool room at 13 and 14 years old. You know, so I got all these people backing me. So police come and say, oh, he's working, he's cleaning up and everything. I mean, I always had something that they was taking care of me because I was part of them. I was part of the environment, but I was part of the environment which they respected because I had a good head on my shoulder. I was a hustler. You know, and I wasn't trying to rob and steal and beat my people down. Yeah, I did some things to make money, but it wasn't robbing my people and doing stuff like that. I made some mistakes around when I hooked up with my stepbrother, but I learned from that. The next thing I know, I was in the Army. And once I went in the Army, a lot of that stuff, everything was over with, you know.
Well, let's revisit the Huff riots. I think that was around 66, 65, 66.
65.
Yeah.
The first Huff riots was 65.
Okay. Now,
In the 65, 66, July, I think it was, yeah.
What started those riots? And did you participate in them at that time?
I really don't know. I really don't know. At that time, that's when I told you I was working at the grocery store. It was called Buy Rights. And the gentleman was giving me $25 to make sure I cleaned out all the meat coolers and everything and swept the place out and everything. Took me about 2 hours, so it was about $12.50 an hour, which my daddy wasn't even making that kind of money, but it 2 hours worth of work. And my dad, at the time, would pick me up occasionally and we just go somewhere and do some things with him. I just would go somewhere and do something with him. That time he picked up me and my friends and took us to Chagrin Falls. And we went to Chagrin's, came back, and Huff was on fire. And my job was on fire. I got very mean after that. I got very mean. I used to call myself a black Klansman because I hated the black folks that did that. Because I not only thought about my job, I thought about a brother there his name was Charles Pope. And Charles Pope had about 11 sisters and brothers. His mama was not in a good shape and that she couldn't work as much as she's supposed to, and Charles was a thief. And he stealed so he could have food for his family, but that fire burned down his home. And nobody benefited out of it but the people that owned the property. No black folks benefited out. We lost because it was black folks burning black folks out. So that's when I started thinking about becoming an activist. I didn't think about the word activist, but I started thinking about fighting against things I thought was wrong. Like I came up against the black nationalists. And I just spoke on some things that they didn't like because I thought it was wrong. Well, if my brother hadn't got me and forced me to go in the Army, I might have got killed because what they were doing was wrong. They were rioting in our neighborhood. They were hurting and beating up black people. There was not a white man involved in that. I didn't see not one white man when I come back. I heard of a white man coming in the neighborhood setting fire to anything. It was us. And my job was gone. That job that I was making $25 was gone. And like I said before, this job would allow black women that was on welfare and everything, when they ran out of their money, they could go to that place to buy rice and get food until they got their welfare check again. And none of these people thought about anything with that. And once the riots was over, they never really built anything else up on Huff. They had a pick and pay up there for a little while and that was gone. But they never built anything else up there until Fannie Lewis came into it.
Okay. That was the first riots, 65. There was, I remember the second one was in 68.
No, Huff didn't get involved in too much in that. Now, in 68, I don't know too much about it. There wasn't much going on there or anything, and because Huff was already destroyed at that time with the 65, 66 riots. That was it. Because that's when Detroit and them they were still doing all that other stuff. But Cleveland had already had its demise, and Huff was the one that really got hit. We got hit the worst, and I don't know why we got hit the worst. But I know that the ideal of it is that I could never see any rationality in it. You know, as time went on, if it hadn't been for Fannie Lewis, which I think she's the greatest council person this city has ever had. You know, but anyhow, if it hadn't been for her, it wouldn't have never rise from the ashes. And it had rose from the ashes where you can go in just about any city, any part in this city, and you won't see nothing as nice as that area over there. And it's quiet. You don't hear no fights, nothing coming from there. And one reason is because Fannie Lewis had us, my group of people, to walk through that community with her group of people and pray. Now, this was a long time after. This 30 years, 40 years after the riots, you know. But that's what she would do. You know?
So you had an experience with the Black Nationalists, and that was not favorable.
No.
There was a couple of other organizations in Cleveland at that time.
Black Panthers.
Black Panthers and the Afro Set.
The Afro Set. The Afro Set came from the Black Nationalists. Mm-hmm. You know, they came from them.
It was like a splinter group.
Splinter groups, yeah, I think so. I don't know how long that really lasted. I think there was a leader that came out of it, but I can't remember his name. But I guess he kind of kept it going after that. But he died here not too long ago too. They were just a bunch of guys that got together, and actually what people might not want to say, but they wasn't nothing but a gang. And I don't care what nobody say. I don't care if somebody come up and say something to me now. I don't care what they say. But when you go and you destroy your own people's property, and you don't benefit from it. I'll tell you a little quick story if you don't mind. After I went in the Army, I came home on furlough. And I went to the bar. I had my uniform on and everything, and some old friends of mine and stuff that I was hanging out with before I went to the Army. Merle and Clarence took me to the bar and everything, and we were just drinking and partying, you know. I'm just welcome me home. And we heard somebody hit the door. And so some of us in the bar got up and ran out to see what's going on. And these Black nationalists was beating this old black brother. They was kicking him and stomping him. And so I just bust out the door and went and grabbed one and slammed him up against the wall. And when I slammed him up against the wall, the other guy put a gun in my side. And when he put the gun in my side, Red, who was Clarence, put a gun in his head. And he told me, he said, I'll blow your brains out right now as you stand here. You touch my brother. Drop that gun. Drop the gun. And so the guy did. And so I grabbed him, and Red said, let's get out of here. I said, no, I want to know why y'all beating this old brother up. They talking about we need money so we can buy weapons. I said, well, how come you don't go beat up the white people? Why don't you go in the white folks' neighborhood and jump on them? Well, we need the Black nationalists. I said, Black nationalists? I said, you supposed to be protecting black folks. You beating this old man up. Well, he was over there with the prostitute and everything, so he ain't no good. He buying PUSSY for my sisters and all this. I said, brother, that's what we supposed to do. We buying from our own folks, regardless if they are hoes, you know. I said, we buying from our own. And so let him buy whatever he want to buy. At least he's buying it from his own. But you don't know if that's one of the daddies of one of your brothers that live across town. Capone gonna hear about this. Capone gonna hear about it. Who's Capone? And then they told me it was a brother that I come up with named Earl. I said, I want to talk to him. So they called and told him I was coming by there, so I go by there. Here's Earl, who I come up with. Put a sawed-off shotgun in my face. I don't care if you are like family. You don't be jumping on my boys and stuff like that. And Gracie, his wife, came and told him, said, that's Chris, put that thing down and everything. I said, I just came to talk to you, man. I said, we were family once and everything. Yeah, but you don't understand what we got to go through. I said, can I talk to you? So we went in, we used to sit down and talk, smoked a joint, talk, and I told him, I said, look here. I said, what we do to our own people is different for the folks that got money. I said, if you really all that black and you're against what the white man do, shouldn't be the white man be the one that you're coming up against? So when I left there, we had a better understanding. We had a much better understanding of everything and that. And because I told him, and then I started looking at it from another view, man. I started looking at it, I said, man, no wonder they call us niggas. Excuse me, but that's what went across my mind. So I couldn't wait to try to get back with the Army, but I just messed around there with them, and I was late going back and everything. And all the time, my brother took me back because he's in the military. So I sit down there for a while in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And I was in a cell because I was AWOL. And I thought about all the things that my people were going through. Next thing I know, they were shipping me out to Germany. This was 1969. So when I got in Germany, the first thing I got caught up in was smoking hash. You know, but I don't care what nobody say, that hash opened up my mind. I believe that's why they don't want to have it here in America, because it'd open your mind. But I just started thinking about things, and I seen how we was acting there. We was fighting each other over there. I got tired. I started speaking about it. We had Black Panther parties over there. The Puerto Ricans had their little groups. The whites had their group. And we're with 8th Division. 8th Division headquarters, where we had the 8th Division Panzer tanks. We had 8th Division Airborne. We had 8th Division Infantry. Everything right there was all war. We in war. We in Vietnam War. We getting ready to go to war, and we fighting among ourselves. And I start talking about it because every weekend, white boys getting jumped on, white boys jumping on, if they find, and they still had their thing where it took a lot of them to jump on one of us. But one of us would walk up to him, just knock one out. And the Puerto Ricans was doing it to him too. And there was a Puerto Rican leader named De Jesus. And there was 2 brothers, call them the Williams brothers. Bernard and Ron Williams, they were Black Panthers. And this was in Germany, this was in Mannheim, Germany. So I hooked up with Ron and Bernard. And Bernard was hardcore. We called him the gorilla. I mean, he didn't mind beating some people up. He didn't mind beating some people down, and especially white people. So after I got into them, we smoking one day and stuff like this. And back where I was at, I was in aviation maintenance. We had good white guys, you know. So I invited some folks up. I'll call it back. I'll call it back. You know? We had good white brothers, and we were all close in aviation maintenance. So I was talking to them about it, and I invited Ron and Bernard up and everything. And when the white dudes came over, they was on guard, like, you know, they ain't used to that, you know. And I told them, I said, no, I said, here, we cool, man. We don't do that. And I told him, I said, you know, I said, the problem that I had with us doing all this fighting and stuff like that, excuse me, I mean. So as I was talking to Ron and Bernard about, we had a white brother named Tish DeFaro. I call them all brothers, and another one named Don. And we just got high together and we talked because we was working aviation maintenance. We didn't get caught up in the whole lot of things that was going on with the infantry and tank corps and all this other stuff. And I told him, I said, how is it that we're going to go over to Vietnam and fight an enemy, a common enemy, when we're in the foxhole fighting each other? So that really started my role as an activist, because I started talking around all of them. Even when I go to go to the M Club, we go to the club and everything. And then I got to Jesus one time and I started talking to him about it and everything. And I told him, I said, look here, I said, man, we're going to have to learn to have a common ground in this. I said, because we're going ready to go over there and fight in this foxhole together and stuff. And we sitting there looking at each other while Charlie is picking us off. And so next thing I know, I met me a German girl. And so I had went out with her and we partying. And so I come back, I want to get something to get high off of, go on to bed, you know. So I go over to Mo's room, and that's where we generally meet at. And I went over there, and it was 50 guys, blacks, white, and Puerto Ricans. And this is after we've been there maybe about 6 months, something like that. And I looked around, I said, what's going on, man? What's up, you know? Hey, what a... I said, this look like a bunch of Indians coming together. What a peace pipe, you know? And so we just kind of laughed about it a little bit and everything. And they told me, said, we want to get serious for a minute. Ain't no smoking, ain't nothing going on now. I said, okay. So I asked them, I said, well, what's happening? They said, we've been listening to what you said. And so I told them, I said, what are you talking about? I've been saying a lot. And they told me, they said, about us fighting each other among each other, man. He said, that's the problem we have in the States, man. You know, we all against each other over there, and we come over here, and we all supposed to be in this uniform together and stuff like this. And we know it's not, you know, we know we're not back in the 40s and 50s where blacks were separated from whites. We all together, but yet we still being separated. How are we going to, and you were saying, like you're saying, how are we going to watch each other's back when we're trying to kill each other and we got an enemy that's trying to kill us? So we got to talking. We want, you know, you've been gone for a little bit, you know, but we've been here going through this. So they told me that they had picked officers and everything and sergeants of arms and stuff like this in different groups, and the white guys came over and all of us, you know, we had a DAP that we used to give in the military. And so, you know, and so they asked me to sit in this seat over here. So I sit down and see. They said, we picked all our officers, and they told me who was what, secretary and sergeant of arms in each group, the white group, the black group, and everything. But they said we wanted to have one thing in common, because you're always talking about we should have all things in common. I still deal with the Bible, and I use scriptures among them too. Whether I was getting high, what, God was still with me. At all times, I was still talking about God and stuff like this, but I know I was sinning, you know, but that was the life, you know. But I still put God in it. Thank God for Annie. That's right. And so they told me that they wanted me to be president of the group, and the name of the group was Brothers International, you know. And that was the first one that I ever known of. It was in the military and everything, and things start, crime, all this other mess that we were doing, the fights and everything started just, it almost came to the point where there wasn't hardly any at all, you know, and the only thing we was worried about was the guys that was taking acid and stuff like that, because we had a lot of drugs around. But we got to the point and everything where we could communicate together, we worked together, and what was kind of powerful about it is that the guys that was in the groups worked in the main parts of the military, like the levee section, where if anybody was getting moved around anywhere, we moved them around. Personnel, handled all personal files, finances, so we had power. I didn't realize that until they told me about some racist general colonel. And the guy said, we need to get him out. Found out that he had that power. You know, because it wasn't on me. I didn't, you know, they came up with it. All I was the one that was the mouthpiece, you know, and everything. And I told them, you know, whatever y'all need to do, if y'all know somebody doing that kind of stuff, then I got called in, and they told me there was a colonel called me in, a warrant officer, and then they sit down and they talked to me about things that was going on. And they told me what I think about staying in the military and everything. I said, man, I'm getting up out of here. I don't want nothing to do with y'all. You know, I was young. I wasn't thinking about it. I hadn't even, at that point in time, I hadn't even turned 19, you know. So what I told them, I said, look here, I can't do this, you know. And so they kind of told me that, you know, you have an opportunity here because we know what you're doing. We know we heard about it. And so, you know, it was my time to get ready to leave off from over there. I learned how to speak the language. I was in Germany, so I was dating a lot of German girls. And then there was a brother over there named Brother Graves, who was a black German. He was American, but he learned the language so fluently that they used him as an interpreter for everything, you know, and stuff. So they just give him privileges. And so he was teaching us the positive side of Germany, the language and everything. So one of the greatest compliments that I ever received in my life, and I still mark that up as one of the greatest compliments that I've ever had, is when there was a Sergeant McDonald from Texas. Old bigoted, probably was a racist before when he first came in the military and everything, but through some things, he used to sitting down. I worked in the mess hall with aviation, and I worked in the mess hall and everything, and Moose used to send us all over Germany collecting stuff and getting food and different things so we can have some of the best food in our mess hall than they had anywhere else. And so we would toss on trade stuff off and stuff like this, you know, I mean, all kinds of stuff we'd be trading off and everything to try to make it better. I would build these big old boxes, stand-up boxes and stuff for flowers and all kind of stuff. I had little skills in carpentry and stuff like that, you know. And so when Sergeant McDonald was getting ready to leave, this was before, when he was getting ready to leave, he came up to me and he told me, he said, I want to talk to you. He said, you know what? He said, I've been in this Army 21 years and it's time for me to get up out of here. He said, but I want to tell you something. He said, I listened to you and all the things that you said. He said, you may not have paid attention to what I was saying when I was talking, but I did pay attention to you. I said, Sergeant McDonald, I said, I listened to what you were saying, but some of the stuff that you were saying was way above my head, man. I mean, you would always talk about the way it used to be. I said, I'm telling you how it has to be. He said, just let me finish, just let me finish. He said, when I start paying attention to what you were saying, I didn't know who Martin Luther King was. I thought he was a rebel rouser. I never heard of no Joseph Leblansky. I don't know none of the people in there. He said, I didn't know that white folks had a lot to do with civil affairs. He said, I hadn't heard of the coal miners union. I've been 21 years in the Army. I hadn't been paying attention. And you're overseas, you're in the wars, you're overseas over here, you're in Germany, you're in different places. He said, you don't get the news. And he said, I knew Malcolm X hated black folks. He just hated us. He was just like our side of the Ku Klux Klan. I said, no, you're wrong. I said, he didn't know enough about you to hate you. He didn't learn about you until he went to Mecca. He said, I found out that by listening to you. He said, that's why for a long time I didn't have anything to say. But I'm going to say this right now. He said, if there was more men like you in this Army, I'd stay. And he said, I learned so much from you in such a short time. And so I always kind of crank that up as to one of the best things. I can't give myself credit for starting the International Brotherhood because the guys did that. All I can say is that I put the information out there, I put the words out there, I put the understanding out there of what we should be as a people, especially as a soldier in the United States Army. And so once putting that out there, they did something with it. We held on to it until all of us was gone. I don't think anything else was done after that, but until all of us gone, it was peace because, like I said, I had a colonel and a warrant officer come and try to get me to stay, but I was stupid. I got out.
That was a great accomplishment back at that time. How many years were you in the military? In the Brotherhood, sorry.
That only lasted about a year. That only lasted about a year because, like I said, we was already 6 months into that, and then about in 1970, when I was getting ready to leave and stuff like, I was one of the last to leave that was in that group because those guys had been there longer than me and everything. But in that time, let's say from the time that it started, I'm gonna say about that, maybe not even quite a year, maybe about 8 months, something like that, because I wasn't there in that particular unit for that period of time because we were all leaving out there. So I'm gonna say about 8 or 9 months at the most. It was just it was peace, you know. It was peace, and then we took care of our own business. There might have been a little issues every now and then with the new guys coming in, but each group, you know, we had sworn to take care of our people, to get our people to understand it. The white brothers decided that they was going to talk to theirs, and the blacks said they were going to talk to theirs, and the Hispanics said they was going to talk to theirs. So say, let it be known, man, we're going to war. We can't fight among each other.
Do you still have contact with any of the members?
I wish. No, that's, like I said, that most of my life is a fly-through life. My life is doing whatever I got to do for the moment and move on. You know, and it seemed like it's been like that until I got into evangelism. Because evangelism tell me I have to have follow-up. So that's just in the last 20 years. You know, but before that, it's not like I even know what one of them is. You know, I wish I could say that.
So after you
Excuse me.
overseas, was that your was that your tour duty? You were done, or you were coming back to civilian life at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I came back to civilian life, but I was still, you know, I still did reserve time for a few years until my 6 years was.
Right. So did you come back to Cleveland?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell me about what life was like at that time getting out?
Excuse me. There's a period in there I got to tell you.
Okay.
I came back to Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I only stayed a couple months.
Okay.
Then I went to live back in Europe for 11 years.
Oh, okay.
For 10 years.
So you got out of the service.
I got out the service and I went back and lived in.
Came back home and then you went back over there.
Yeah. Got
as a civilian.
As a civilian.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, as a civilian, I just worked for the military.
Okay.
And I worked for the military, then I worked for the Germans. I mean, not for the Germans, but as a civilian, I worked in a restaurant business for the military. And so I worked in the EM club. First I worked in the officers club, then the EM club. Then
when you say EM, you mean enlisted members?
Enlisted members, right. Enlisted men's club. And then I ran a little enlisted men club myself for a while, cook and everything. And then I moved to Heidelberg. And then when I moved to Heidelberg and everything, I got married to a young lady named Marita, and we had a little baby. And then I was just then I went to work for the Germans, an international harvester, because it paid more money and the insurance was great. Because over there, the insurance covers everything. Once you work for a job, it covers everything. It covers all your medical, it covers all your dental, it covers your eyes, everything. Their medical system over there is what this system wanted to be. I mean, they cover everything. Your money goes to the bank, your bills are paid from the bank, and what's left is yours. You know, the system is a pretty good system, you know. So if you take care of your money, if you want a loan or anything, the bank calls your job, asks you what kind of work you do, what kind of person are you dependable, and if they say yes, then you can get the loan you want. They take care of their people over there, you know.
Okay, that was 11 years you spent over there, and you were married?
Total.
And had a child?
Yes.
Okay.
Wife named Marita and my daughter named Nicole.
Are they still in Germany?
No,
Did they come back with you?
no. We got separated while I was over there. We went through a lot of different things. We still young and everything, and I came on back to the States because this is where God wanted me to be.
Okay.
And then later on, they came back and went to Florida, and she got married somewhere else, to somebody else.
Now we know about racism in America. What was it like in Germany?
It was there because of the fact is that the white man took a racial, he took this racial stigma over there that black people grew tails after 12 o'clock. And he put that out on us. He actually put it out over there.
People actually believe it.
And people believed it because there was one time we was in Worms, Germany, the same place where Elvis Presley was at. Because we had got there right after Elvis left and Archie Bell and the Drells. And we went to Worms, so we went out dancing one night and stuff like this, and the girls literally got up behind us at 12 o'clock and started looking to see if because these clubs here I don't know why blacks hadn't went to the club. I don't know. I don't know. But it was in Worms. And they actually got up to try to see if we grew tails. Yeah, it was crazy, But when they found out they didn't, they fell in love with us, because we danced good. We had a good time, had good fun. We wasn't trying to beat them up or do anything to them, nothing wrong to them or nothing like that. And we was just trying to enjoy our life, but it was kind of crazy. And I've been called Swatsahoon, meaning black dog, before, but I didn't pay too much attention to it because once I learned the language, when they said something and I could give it back to them, whatever they said, I turned around on them. And then they kind of left me alone because they didn't know if I was black German or not. And so you have Germans over there that are black Germans. Yeah, oh yeah, and you have a lot of half-breeds, and most of the Germans are respectful. We're talking about the West Germans. We're not talking about the East Germans. We're talking about West Germans. They just didn't come together now. I understand the East Germans are really a mess, but the West Germans were pretty nice. It got to the point over there where racism was so bad over there in Germany that they wouldn't let a black in a club. They wouldn't let them in the club because the black folks came over there, and like I said, there's some things I may bring out in this thing if it shows up, and I don't know if y'all gonna cut it out or not. That black folks may get offended of, but it's the truth. Because when we first came over there and we started initiating, trying to get brothers to understand, man, you don't go over here and go up to them and start talking about ficky and using all that negative language. Because that meant F you, I want to F you, and stuff like this. And like Graves was trying to teach us this positive side. So we used the positive side. But the brothers went over there because drugs over there, you can go and just buy anywhere. You can just go and buy. Drugs was just everywhere you can buy it, And they had a place there called the Holy Ghost Church. It was a cathedral. You go behind there and buy all drugs you want, And it was legal until we started abusing it. And then the MPs went to the Germans' authority and everything and told them, said too many GIs are getting caught up in the drugs and everything. But blacks would go in the club. They was raping. They were beating up people. They were having a lot of fights, causing a lot of trouble. They were doing it. And I was watching this. I seen this. And let me go back a little bit. When I came up on Huff, it was mostly white. When blacks came in and everything, the white folks that was there might have showed a little bit of bigotry or something like that, but you didn't feel the racism as much. But when the blacks come in and the young blacks start really getting loose after the riots, man, it was a bad place to walk, a bad place to be. And it was us that brought that down. It was us that brought it down. And then also, when I was go back from Germany, when we first came over there in '69, it was kind of cool. I had met I can't remember his name. The old cook And Gerhard's father even told us that some blacks had saved his life during the war, in World War II. And they respected blacks. They cared about blacks. He said, he said, there's a different type of black man here in this country now. And he said, this one likes to fight and he likes to do all kinds of things. And it's kind of scary, he said, because the blacks that he met during World War II were very good people. They helped them get out of a concentration camp. They let them go instead of, because they didn't have no weapons. They said they was through fighting. They didn't want to fight no more. They was through with Hitler and everything. And said the white guys wanted to keep them, but the black guys said, if they want to go home, let them go home. They don't have any weapons. And the black guys let them go. So Gerhard's father always had that in his heart. When I come into his heart, he treated me. Gerhard told him, he said, this is my friend. And he told him, he said, I didn't know whether to bring him home or not, but he's like a friend. He's like a brother to me. We work together. And his father just treated me like a son, you know, because that's what happened to him during World War II. Well, now you got this different kind of black that came in even after I got there. There was fighting, grabbing and snatching on the women, doing all kind of crazy things, man. And I didn't know what to do then, because then it wasn't like I was connected to all these brothers I was with before. Everybody's gone. The brotherhood is not there no more or nothing like that. And so it got bad. They would not let a black man in the clubs. Certain clubs you can go in because they wanted those dollars, because the dollar was more than the mark. But other than that, some of the clubs didn't care whether you black or not. They wasn't letting you in there. They didn't care nothing about the American dollar or anything, because of the fact is that you came in with that negativity.
I noticed that a lot of your comments are directed at what you see as far as the community and what they do to themselves.
Yeah.
What we do to ourselves.
Yes.
And, you know, I recognize that in you, you know. Where do you think that kind of logic comes from in you? Is that something that your grandmother Annie gave to you, or just something that you picked up as you came along? Because you recognize things and you don't mind speaking on them.
When I was coming up with my great grandmother on Huff and everything, we didn't have any real racial problems with white people or anything. We went to their stores and they treated us nice and everything, because most of them owned everything at that time. So we didn't have all those things. As time went on, wherever the black folks came from, down south or whatever it is, I think that mentality of self-destruction is in our heritage somewhere. Because if you go back and look at the African tribes, the bigger tribes would always overrun the smaller tribes and make them slaves and take them and make them do different things. We don't know this because we don't get into African history. We don't know that. We don't know that the greatest slave trader in the world was the Watutsis and the bigger tribes in the Congo, the Congolese tribes, who went and took the smaller tribes to give them to the white man to keep to keep them from having problems with the white man. Because they had more of them and they had more spears, and the white man was scared, but the white man had them bullets and shoot them, so they would go and make some kind of trade. And so when they started doing it, whatever kind of communication they made, those tribes would get those smaller tribes and overcome them and trade them off. We don't know any of that because we have no African history. We don't even have hardly American history in school no more. But we as a people, there's a hurt, there's an anger, there's something inside us that's volatile, that is there, and I don't know where it comes from. Because even when we talk about rioting, you still got those ones that's going to march and have peace, but then you got the ones that want to be destructive. And see, and as long as we have that, they always going to compare us to evil. They're always going to compare us to being the worstest people in the world and stuff. Because right now with this thing going on with Trayvon and all these people getting out here rioting, why you want to riot when you know it ain't going to do nothing but cause you to get hurt? or somebody get hurt. You may have your little brother or your little sister out there, but you ain't thinking about that when you pick up that brick to throw it through that window to snatch that TV or something. You don't think about none of that. All it is about self. And blacks is more selfish into self than any people I know. White folks will build up a business, they build up a corporation, then kill you off. We'll kill you before you even get there. And so it's something that I've seen because, like I said, when I seen it when I was in Germany, I seen it when I was on Huff, when I was coming up on Huff. Huff was cool. I was playing with the kid across the street and every now and then. Daddy told me, I told you don't play with him on that way, but the kids still played together. Because white folks instill hate in their kids. As racists, they're instilling it in us. We don't have that really instilled in us. Most of our people don't instill that, especially the old folk. They never instill that stuff, hate the white people and do this and everything. No, they should treat everybody with respect. I heard this more in our neighborhood than they had doing to others, you wish others do unto you. Okay, I heard this coming up all the time. Yeah, and I heard my great-grandmother tell me, you don't look at the person's color, you look at what that person do. That's the reality of it. That's the facts. If that person treats you good, then you treat that person good. Now, no matter what the other person is doing, if that person treats you good and that white man treats you good over there and this black white man treats you bad, then you get mad at the white man that treats you bad, not the one that treats you good. And that's the way my great-grandmother, who was back in slavery time actually, that had the knowledge of what was going on with slavery and everything, that came from down south, came from South Carolina. But she didn't instill that kind of hate in me. So the hate that I grew up with basically was more or less toward my people for destroying themselves and wanting to hurt me. I've been down in South Carolina, in Columbia, South Carolina, man, where them white folks down there tried to kill me. And I understand they was racist. But why should my brother want to kill me out on the street when I'm walking around looking like a bum and I ain't got no money, but you still want to try to mug me? I don't understand that. How you gonna be a man and want to beat on a sister, beat on a woman? What makes you a man when you want to come up and destroy a family when you in the family and you stealing and robbing from your family? I mean, and then you want to come back home. I mean, there's the things that we think sometimes it seems like that we need to be reprogrammed. And even when we say we got God, we're still wicked. Because we don't understand that God don't like wickedness. He don't like evil. So no, what I learned, she told me the right things to do, but what I've seen that was the negative world is because God brought me out in that world so I could see it for myself. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, if my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, and then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins and heal the land. And then the next scripture goes like this. He says, my eyes are open and my ears attend to the prayer that's made in this place. God has always says, watch and pray. And he's always said he that had an ear, let him hear. I believe in keeping my eye on everything. I watch the news all the time. I don't listen at just Al Sharpton. I listen at Rush Limbaugh. Because I want to know what Rush got to say too. Because see, not everything Rush saying is wrong. And maybe some of the stuff he gonna say that make me want to turn around and grab him and shake him up. But there's something that Al Sharpton say sometimes that maybe, hey, wait a minute, brother. You need to get into a little bit more deeper and understand this, because ain't none of you got the heart and the guts and what that Martin Luther King and Malcolm X had. None of y'all got it, because they didn't need money to do what they did. I mean, they needed money to do what they did, but they wasn't asking for it. They wasn't seeking that. Martin Luther King wasn't seeking glory and Malcolm X wasn't seeking glory. They went out and did what they were supposed to do. Shirley Chisholm didn't seek glory. Barbara Jordan didn't seek glory. Ain't none of them sisters that went out there that knew what was going on in the world didn't seek. Joseph Leblonsky wasn't seeking glory. None of them people were seeking glory. They did what they knew to do, like for people, like you had. Okay? Like those of us that look and see a problem and we want to have a solution. People talk too much about problems and they don't want to deal with the solution. And really, to us, there's only one solution, and that's God and prayer. or two. You want to call it two? God and prayer. Because if you go to God to ask you, Lord, help us because we don't understand what's going on with this madness, then God will give you the understanding of what you need to do. You know, but what I learned from being out here, seeing people, listening to people, all the meetings, you know, I used to go through with Anawa and all the ones up in East Cleveland. I used to go to all these meetings and get frustrated. Oh yeah, Mildred Brewer might have got these things accomplished now, but once upon a time, she was just a person that was running off the mouth too. Because at certain times, you can only do so much when you got your hands tied. But you talk a lot.
And when you say Mildred Brewer, you're speaking of?
The council person used to be, or still is, the council person for East Cleveland. But there were other people that was there. I believe Mildred had her heart in it. But there were so people like Old Mays and all these people, there was nothing but, they wasn't but people that wanted a title. And they didn't care nothing about what they did with the title. Coming to meetings and stuff like this and fighting in the meeting when they got people there that want to invest in the city. They sit up there just like Negroids, fighting among themselves. And all the people I watch business people, white business people that came there that was looking for certain things and maybe some tax write-offs and everything if they set up a business. Hear these people arguing about what they wanted. Instead of trying to understand, so well, how can we work with these people to get something established in our city? They would sit there and argue. The people get up and leave. So was I watching? Yeah. So when I told everybody I'm through, after the Anawa situation, after Anawa went to jail, I was down there with him because he come to my church. He asked for forgiveness for the Lord and everything and stuff, whatever he was going through. And so I supported him all the way through the courthouse.
Okay, since we're talking about East Cleveland at this point, let's come on back to after you came back from Germany. Did you settle in East Cleveland at that time?
No.
Okay. You came back to Cleveland.
I came back to Cleveland.
Okay.
Right.
How long was it before you moved into East Cleveland?
I moved into East Cleveland in 1989.
In 89?
Mm-hmm.
Who was the mayor at that time?
Davis.
Davis, okay. What did you think about Davis as a mayor?
I didn't think much of him because I seen a city in decay.
Okay.
You know, I mean, all I heard was stories, so I don't really know.
Okay, let me look at it this way. Prior to you moving to East Cleveland, what relationship had you had with East Cleveland, or what did you see as far as the city of East Cleveland before you even moved there?
Only relationship I had at East Cleveland was they had a Burger King.
Okay.
and anywhere else in the area of Cleveland where I was living at, because I was living on 93rd and St. Clair and everything, we didn't have a Burger King at that time. So I would come up to East Cleveland, and I used to hear that East Cleveland was top flight. They had first class this and first class that, and the police would run you down and all this other stuff and everything, because I can't remember the name of the guy that was mayor then. I can't remember his name again. The city manager, whatever his name was. Yeah, it was before Davis. It was before Davis and everything. Wise? No, it was before him. There was somebody else, and it began with a P. I think his name began with a P. I think heavy-set guy, round face. I could remember his face, but I can't remember that. And then Wise might have came in after. I don't know. But anyhow, East Cleveland had a good reputation. Yeah, okay. You know, pretty good reputation. But only, like I said, only connection I had with him was the Burger King.
Okay. So you came into East Cleveland with the idea that this is a good, grounded city. You know, it has favorable things that you desire.
I came in because I got a house at a good price.
Okay. All right.
I got a house at a good price. I'm a veteran, and I found a house here. I didn't want to live in any apartments, anything, and it had a giant backyard with a pear tree. And I fell in love with that. So I moved into it. But after moving into it,
So you saw the change in the city.
it wasn't what I was told.
Okay.
You know, I don't know how long it took to change because I had not had any involvement in it, but the Burger King. But when the guy came up with this house and everything, and I could get it at a price that I could afford, I've always wanted my own home, and I had just gotten, I had gotten married in '87, '86 actually, and we had lived in Denver, out in Denver for a while because my brother was out there and had business. And then my wife couldn't stay out there because she ran into a racial problem out there in a job she had. And then her family was having problems back here, so she moved back here. So I sold everything that we had out there and then moved back here with her. And then we went looking, after we kind of got our heads together, we went looking for a home. And I found a home in East Cleveland.
Okay, so that kind of brings me to this question. Think back to your earliest memories of East Cleveland and tell me what life was like then.
Once I moved in,
Yeah.
well, you know, I was busy, you know, trying to get my house together and everything and stuff like that. And it was a place that had a lot of ghetto-minded people. I mean, ghetto-minded people, a lot of cussing, a lot of fussing, a lot of fighting, a lot of kids running up and down the street and stuff like this. This is 1989. And where the street that I was on, they was not used to anybody that, how can I say it? They was not used to having anybody around them, I think, that was truly into the kind of worshiping God, just doing things right and stuff like this, because there was a lot of drug dealing going on. There was a lot of, things that the average people just liked to do that didn't care about how the other people perceived it. You know, staying up late at night, parties late at night. But then after a while, they started having meetings of the people and stuff like the street clubs and stuff like that. And I think I went over to one at the rec center, and when I went over there, that's where I met the mayor, Anawa. And he was talking about how can they cut down on crime and blah, blah, blah. And they had a lot of the people over there that had street committees and stuff like that. And so I opened up my mouth and told them, I said, well, the one way that you can really do something about your neighborhood and everything is you have not a vigilante group, but a group that would be able to walk the streets. And I said, and talk to the people and talk to the drug dealers and support the police and let them know we're going to turn you in. We're not going to stand by and just let you run us out, and everything. And so the mayor asked me at that particular time, would I be interested in forming a group? So we asked people right there. There was a minister there named Bowie. He asked him to be a spiritual support, and we asked, was there anybody there that would be interested in forming Block Watch? But people that wouldn't mind participating. And the mayor said he said himself that I would go out on you as many days as I could. If we pick some days to go out and everything, and whatever days I can make it, I'll go out with you. And then they had, I forget this police lady's name. Her name was Kathy. I can't remember Kathy's name. Stanton. Kathy Stanton. She was like a community liaison or something like that. And so all of us got together, and and we formed East Cleveland People's Patrol. You know, and I became president of that group. You know.
So you moved into East Cleveland with a certain picture of the city. You got you a good piece of property. That's your earliest memories to find out that it wasn't what you had been told about.
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
You found out at that point. Now, what are your fondest memories of East Cleveland?
Seeing people come together to work to protect their cities, to stand up against crime, stand up against the drug dealers, and stand up against the things that was going on, because we did do a great work in there. I've seen some people that work in City Hall. I've seen them in other places, and they told me right away, they said that one thing that they always going to remember is me and those orange hat people walking through the streets, talking to the drug dealers and everything, because they said through us, and there was an officer named Officer Hill that was here, but he's captain now for the city of Cleveland, and he let folks know that our group changed a whole lot in East Cleveland. It caused a whole lot of crime to cease because we went where the drug dealers were dealing drugs. We went and stood out in front of their houses. We talked to them. We communicated with them. We prayed with them. You know, and we let them know that we're going to come back, you know, because we didn't want the drugs doing. But the main thing is to see the people come together. To see that there were some people, most of them was elderly people, but at least they came together, you know, and they would walk the streets. They would walk for miles in a day, you know, going out there on the streets, you know, and to me, to start seeing crime go down, you know, and really getting respect from the police too as well. You know, because the police even respect us when they seen us out there. They ride by and honk. They knew that the area was in good hands because we was out there, you know. But seeing people come together for a cause to help one another, to me, that was the best part of East Cleveland was those people, because it wasn't like it boomed in businesses or anything like that, but it did boom in a culture where it says, we can be a village if the villagers get up and work the village, you know, yeah.
Okay, in what ways has the city changed over time, and what do you think contributed to those changes?
You really want me to say that?
Mm-hmm.
The city has died. And it died because the evil that was there, when we walked through the streets, when we had People's Patrol, and even when I became just an evangelist and had a church here at Helen S. Brown, we would walk through the streets and pray. We'd pray on the drug spots. We would pray up, we walked through from Lakeview all the way to 152nd. I would carry the cross. And I do this every year. I carry the cross. I carry around Easter time. But then, back then, we just pick up the cross and carry it through so people would see us carrying the cross and let them know that regardless of what they think, Jesus was still in charge. And we carry the cross and we pray and we stop and talk with people. We go into the bars. We went into one of the bars right up there on Taylor and Euclid. And we went into the bar one night and I asked the owner, can I pass out some tracts? And they kind of looked at us kind of funny. And the guy said, yeah, go ahead, you know, go ahead. I said, I'm not disturbing your people. I'm not going to get the preaching up here. I just want to give them a little tract. And the guy said, okay. And then some of the people in the bar came up and said, you know what? Y'all real Christians. And I said, what you mean by that? He said, a lot of Christians come past here, man, they look in here and everything, and they get into stepping. And then one of my old friends from Huff was in there, And he said, so this is what happened to you after you went to the army. You come back and you're preaching now and everything. I said, not so much that. I said, I just believe in getting the word of God out. And so they let us start going into the bars and stuff, and they would never really mess with it because we didn't mess with them. We didn't go in there and say, you going to hell. We just give them a track and just let them know that the Jesus loved them. And so we got that respect as walking up and down the street. So we prayed on these things. There was a gentleman that came in from New York that wanted to revamp some of the buildings and everything, but our people got in there and started crossing the wires in the building and everything and set the building on fire. And he was going to enclose it in there. He wanted me to move in one of the buildings to be a landlord and everything. And I talked to him and everything, and he was going to remodel that whole thing down there. I can't remember all them streets that's right down in that area, but Page and Wymore and that area and stuff like that. He was really going to be fixing that up and everything, but after them girls got in there and they crossed them wires and burned the building down, he left. We had little block parties that he was raising up, trying to get the people to come in and do something. But then we prayed and we prayed and we prayed, and as we prayed, we had these little stakes with the prayers, and we put them in the ground. Okay. So we destroyed the power that Satan actually had in the city of East Cleveland. Okay. But as time went on, the people got older and they fell off from People's Patrol because we had give out clothes, shoes, food. We had 20-foot trucks load of food and stuff that we was giving out every week because that's how God was blessing us with money, and we was with Helping Hands. And the brother that had Helping Hands was out down by Sandusky, and he would load us up with trucks load of food, stuff that's getting ready to, the dates getting ready to expire and stuff like this. Some of them still had expired, but it's still, you could use it still, but we were still bringing it in and giving it to the people. And clothes and everything. I mean, we was getting clothes donated from all kind of people. So we were always around there doing that, praying and having outdoor church and stuff. We worked with Art McCoy and what's the name of his group? Black on Black Crime and stuff. And we worked with different ones, with Judy. And so we were always doing something, and it was always prayer. So when God brought the peace and mostly all the drug dealers subsided, everybody, they couldn't do anything else in there. The Spirit of the Lord was moving in the city. And this is what you won't like. And maybe, I don't know who else going to look at this. But because I went and started pastoring, which I shouldn't have did. I should have stayed evangelism and should have stayed out there on the streets, but I got in the pastor thing, got kind of comfortable. It took the life out the city. Then when I moved in 2006, the place completely just died. It just died and it's been dead. It's not like they're doing anything there unless some of the smaller groups of people are trying to come together to do something, but it's not like they're building. The mayor still tried to tear down some of them places to get rid of some of the mess that was going on in some of them buildings and stuff like that, but they don't have the life that they should have because the churches don't have life. See, when God's people, we're supposed to bring life. Because the Lord says that he came that we may have life and life more abundantly. But if we don't get out and pray in the streets and talk to the people and show the love, where is the love? If the God's people who are called by his name don't humble themselves and pray and seek his face, if they just go to church, that's all you got is the church. The Spirit of God has to be brought out. So the few people that are there that may have it, that are doing something, they're not spreading around because they're focused on what they're trying to do, which is good. And you may even look at the area where they at and you may see a little life around there because they got that life. But the church is not going to have life because God expects more out of them. So if you don't have a church that's going out asking God to give life to the community stays dead. Now, you don't got the devil out, but you still got wicked people in the White House. You still got wicked people in the sheriffs. You got wicked people still doing their thing, and it's undercover. So wickedness is still there, but it's hiding, and because the devil don't want, because he's stupid like that, everybody know he's busy. So it'll become more demonistic before it become lively with the liveliness of God. Because without life from us, there's death. Look at your house. You go up and down the street and you don't see no house like this. Because there's life in you and your wife, this house is more, just like my house with East Cleveland. My house had that big sign on there. It says, John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, the life. That 6-foot sign, everybody knew my house. That red and white house, that brought life. But it also brought death to the evil that was on that street, because all the evil around me was gone. I was the only house that had a life in it, you know? And so all them houses that I prayed against on them street died, and all the people that I was having problem with was gone. Well, that's what happened.
You know, I'd like to go back a little bit to when you first started evangelizing. What encouraged you to do this?
East Cleveland's People's Patrol. Well, no, not that. I was at my church, Evangelical Christian Church. Okay. I don't know how long y'all want to go. But anyhow, I was at the Evangelical Christian Church, and God said, go into the world and teach this gospel to all nations. And so as I studied, that become part of my life. And people used to get on me, you always want to go out on the street, you always want to go out on the street. I said, that's what God give us to do. Fannie Lewis came to the church. And she said, I got too much drug dealing going down here on 83rd Street. He said, I would really like somebody to come out and pray. Walk with me and pray on 83rd Street. And we were having Bible study. And the pastor didn't want to let anybody go from the Bible study. So she came in, and there were some other people that got up with me. I said, look, I'll go with you. And so there's a few of us that went with her, and so we went down 83rd Street praying. She had a little group of people that connected with us, and we all prayed down there. I was carrying a cross every Easter. The Lord told me to carry a cross a little bit more, so I carried a little bit more. So I tried to set up an evangelistic team out of Emmanuel. Had evangelistic classes and everything. When the folks would come, yay. But when it was time to go out, there was only me and Kenny to go out, you know? So I would always feel a little bit disgusted with that, because most Christians feel like they ought to do nothing but go to church and shout, and they think they got the Holy Ghost. And so I just kept doing it. And then God pulled me out that church. And so when he pulled me out, he just blessed me with everything. And I was in East Cleveland working, city of Cleveland, everywhere. You know, people knew me all over the city. I didn't know that. But God made me pretty well known throughout the city. You know.
Okay, how has race and racism impacted you personally? And how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
I don't think it really impacted the city of East Cleveland, but through the city council being so ignorant at the times that I was there, that when the white people would come in to bring their business in, and they would show the ignorance of the nigger. And I will use that word, because them people looking and say, how am I going to trust these folks out here to protect my business when they can't even get along with one another? We don't know what one going to do without the other. Because like I said, you may have some people there that had some good ideals, but it seemed like if it wasn't their ideal, they had to fight about it. The ideal wasn't their ideal. The ideal was the white people that came in and wanted to bring the business in. So now we need to shut up and listen to what the white folks got to say, so we can find out what we can do for them to keep them. You know, because as soon as you get somebody pull in, when you get you Happy's pull in, you had Little Caesar pull out. So how did we keep business? You had the shoe store that was over there. What was it? Allen's and all this stuff. So as soon as they come in, they out. Oh yeah, you can get a little gambling place over there to stay in because it's a place where the devil has his power. So of course the devil's little workshops are gonna hang in there. They'll be there, you know. But other than that, what else do you really got? You had shoe stores come in up there on one end by the police station, pull out. People pull that out business. You know, when you're pulling out business, and then you got a whole little street right there in front of Forest Hill that where ours used to be and everything. I told Art a long time ago, get them drug boys off and down the street down there with you, because you black on black crime. You need to go up there and you need to stop that and everything. The guys are looking at me like I'm crazy. Say, you can't be on black crime and not go up there and understand that they pushing dope to black folk. So Art got out there one day, got mad and got that bullhorn and went down there by himself because his little group didn't go. And he finally went down there and did something about it. But what happened to that? When that died and that was killed there, it was dead. That liquor store don't even sell it and make the money that it's supposed to make. Why? Because in front of that liquor store is one of them pegs that we put in the ground and prayed against.
Oh, okay.
So they don't make the money that they could make.
No, they closed. They gone.
Oh, they are? Oh, I didn't know. I just thought I'd tell you that. We put a peg in. We put a peg in there long time ago. When I was running with the blockbusters, we put that in there, you know. But we put that in there, prayed against that wouldn't last. You know, so it had its time. But if you go through and drive through the city dead. And if anybody want to get the city started, tell them churches, tell Small and them who's been there all these years. So Pastor Small, would y'all come out and just walk through the street? Go over there and get Finney. And then tell them, say, look, would y'all please just walk through our neighborhood and give us some life back? Go over there and get some of them other guys that's been around there. Go in there and get that brother that took over that Seymour, wherever it was on the corner of Shaw and Hayden right there. You know, tell them, get out and walk through the streets and pray. No, y'all want to have church. That ain't God want. God want to be glorified. You ain't glorify him by going in the church, standing around and jumping, shouting, and going out doing nothing. That's why he don't give the church no power nowadays. They powerless. I mean, you got people coming up to church falling on the ground all the time. They think that's what they supposed to do. They get up, they the same demon they was when they fell. And that's the truth. And I mean, folks dancing around and shouting and screaming. You see them do all that dancing around and they shouting and doing all that screaming in the church, and they can't lift God's name up not one time in their own home. Let alone church, let alone streets, but in their own home. And so that's why you have death in the community, because the people of God don't bring no life.
Okay, how about inequality? Has inequality impacted you personally? And do you feel like inequality has had an impact on East Cleveland?
Qualities of what?
Inequality.
Or what? Help me to understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Let me answer this thing about equality. Quality in a community, you want to see progress. You want to see businesses, schools they redid the schools, and the schools are cool. The schools are good. They got new schools and new building. Okay, then they tore down Shaw High School and they rebuilt it. The old Shaw High School had a swimming pool in it, right? For instance, they built a new one without a swimming pool. They took the quality from it, because our kids need everything, because black kids don't know how to swim. So why you take the quality of the school out? Okay, that's one. So you built these other schools and you put all these things in it. What are you teaching them? Okay, so now you got the schools. Are they teaching economics? I'm not sure. Maybe somebody needs to look into that, because see, economics is something that every kid needs to know, because as soon as that kid graduates, and if they graduate with good grades and everything, a credit card company sends them a credit card because they're going to college, and they get a credit card that say $5,000. That kid don't know nothing but to spend, instead of saying, wait a minute, I'm going to save this money here, maybe use this to help buy me a car to get transportation, help get my books, and help, buy what I need to try to live on campus or off campus. No, they don't understand that, because they're not getting that kind of quality in the good schools that they do have in East Cleveland. Okay, then now you look around. There's very few stores you can go and shop or buy anything in East Cleveland. All right? without them closing something down, right? So how can I talk about quality in a dead place when all they got is new schools with not enough of the right ingredients in the schools to help develop the type of child we need for this time and age, right? The kid, when me and you came up, when we as children came up, they told us you had to be twice as much as a man to equal a white man. Okay, then, now we're seeing how black kids are getting killed all over the place. They ain't even had no guns on them and nothing like this. And the white justice system says, it's all right, it's cool, it don't matter. We can march as much as they want to. They don't care because they got everything insured and they get it rebuilt. Maybe they wanted it to happen so they can get the new thing that they wanted. And they don't care nothing about us because the fact is that the one that's sitting on high is the one that got everything he's thinking about that he needs to get. And now he's getting it because we done went down and destroyed it. And now they pointing the fingers again, them niggas. So, okay then, what if you got all these churches in the city and the churches don't build nothing in the city? You had one church that said they was going to try to build a old folks home and stuff like that. Never did get it. Never did get it. And their churches were separated. They were pulling away from each other because they had what you call a ministerial alliance in East Cleveland. I don't know what they got now, but they ain't built nothing. Ain't nothing with all them little churches come together and saying, okay, each pastor say, every week, I'm going to take $100 from whatever comes into this church and we're going to put it into a community fund and we're going to build something for our kids. Or we're going to build something for our people. Do they do that? No. So how can we talk about quality? Now, the quality in me, I'm 63 years old. I'm still here and I'm still able to talk. I'm still able to stand up against unrighteousness. I'm working with Hip Hop Nation. I'm working with Silver B, with the Hip Hop Nation when he got me coming on the radio on Thursdays and everything, talking about what's going on. And then I'm working with Al Porter and his mother and everything with the Hip Hop Symposium, trying to talk our kids into stop all this bad language, these B's and these N words, and let them know that they got power in their words to be able to help our young people around. I want to teach them about business, to have them to start thinking about getting folks to work with them that can help them handle their finances so they don't have to be stuck if they fall down, about teaching black folks how to invest in a house before you invest in a car. Don't you get a Cadillac until you get your house. You understand? Get you a house first. Invest in your home first and get you a Chevrolet. And that means if you have to shove one leg and lay the other. You see, but the idea they're talking about quality in what? It can be no quality when there's no life. And if everything around you is dead, you can never really have anything that's going to be alive. And if you don't have the love of Jesus Christ and God, and even if the Muslims, I'll give them a break on this interview, Allah, but Allah still have to revert back to Jesus Christ. Without him, none of it makes any sense. And even Muhammad said that himself when he called him Isa. You understand? Because they talk about the return of Isa. So there's something involved there where we need to come together as a people and not let religion separate us, but put our minds together, because great minds can have great kids. But if everybody's walking around dead and there's no life in us and nobody's really trying to do nothing but have church, just want to shout around and dance around, then get up and go back and do whatever they're going to do.
I noticed there's a lot of churches in these Cleveland. They have an organization, Concerned Pastors of East Cleveland. Was they available when you were pastoring?
They had Concerned Pastors, might have been the Ministerial Alliance. I don't know if they changed that, or there might be two organizations. But only thing I'm gonna flip this on you. Both of y'all from East Cleveland, or you have businesses in East Cleveland, or something doing East Cleveland. What have they done? I'll make the point. Concern for what? Concern for pastor and and First Lady anniversary, concern for church anniversary, concern for Nurses Guild anniversary, concern for Deacons Board anniversary. Concern for what? If you got a church with 200 members and each one of them give $10, right? How much money is that? $2,000. So if you take $200 and give it to the pastor that day and $200 and give it to the community, the church still got $1,600. Tax-free. Would you be helping if you put that 200 into a concerned minister's box and say, we're going to build something for our kids, or we're going to come together and put something together? I seen the new buildings being built up there on right there across the street from Wendy's and stuff like that next, and I seen the new library and stuff like that, but a lot of government funds and stuff went into that. But there's some things that those churches, because see, when I went out there and trying to get them to pray, there was 21 churches I walked to. And when put flyers on them to come and ask them to have prayer, overnight prayer, you know. We had a couple of them to show up and some of them didn't. Most of them didn't. Okay then. So concerned pastors doing what? If you can see, or if the people where it used to be we the people can go to the churches and say, concerned pastors, what are you concerned about and what are you going to do about it? Does that make sense? I mean, don't you think God is going to say to them, because you know there's a scripture in the Bible where God says to 5 of the churches, I know your good works, but I have this against you. Okay, what did you really do? When I had my church, in the 9 years we had it, we changed the whole community around. A whole community. That's why you got Foreman Meals. That's why you got Save a Lot, and that's why you got Advanced Auto Parts. And Kevin Conwell would tell you that, because where we had our church on 124th, we prayed out on the streets. We had church out right there on the street. We prayed up and down the street. We talked to the people. I prayed with the drug dealers. I took 9 drug dealers into the church. The store that was next door to it that was dealing all the drugs, we prayed against that, and that got shut down and then got renewed. A new building put in there and everything, and then they paved the streets, and our area from 125th all the way down to Lakeview was paved on both sides before any part of Superior was paved. Both sides was paved because God gave us. We had they came by and fixed the face of our building and everything else. Somebody said to me, said, well, this pastor, a friend of mine, said they wasn't supposed to have no church on those Saturdays anyhow. And when you don't have the Holy Ghost and everything, you don't do. We had more Holy Ghost than he ever thought he could have. I left that church in good business when he took it over. And I don't care what nobody say. I sit down with him anytime and go word to word with him. But the idea of it is we had a time to do what we needed to do, and God is using me in other places now. You know, and again, I'll even say this. It's God that's in this because he let me speak the truth when a lot of them won't come on and tell you, oh, I smoked dope. They won't come on and tell you that I was a sinner. No, they want to come in and they act like they're going to sit here and they got their legs crossed and everything and they're going to try to be so perfect with it. But the idea of dealing a real autobiography is dealing with the truth. So the secrets don't come up later on because, see, I know how God changed me. But I know how God can move. So you can't have all them good qualities. And then with the churches doing what they're doing, the concerned pastors, somebody need to ask them a question. Maybe before you retire, maybe you ought to go to one of them meetings and ask them. Maybe the organizations that are doing something need to go and ask them, is there anything you can do for our community? Because see, now there's prime property that's closed down. So they can take that prime property and make it something positive by putting that money together. Just a thought.
Okay, now we've talked about what you've done or your organization did as far as walking the streets to help change that drug culture that was in East Cleveland. Now, can you recollect a memory or instance when the community came together and fought for something that was important to the city?
Only thing I can tell you about is when East Cleveland People's Patrol came together. The community itself, after I kind of left East Cleveland, I didn't really get too much involved with any of the groups to hear or to see anything that they was doing. With the mayor that they have now, I'm not sure of what he's done. So I really can't give you an answer on that. I'm not gonna, act like I know something I don't know, because I just look at what I see, and the improvements in what I see them at. I am really concerned about what's going to happen with those buildings that they're building up there next to the hospital and across the street from the library. Because if you put the wrong people in there, that's going to be destroyed soon. And if you don't get no life in there, and if you don't get the Spirit of God in there, it's not going to last that long either. Give it 10 years and it'd be messed up, But the only thing about it is that I haven't heard anything that they haven't really did anything. And maybe I might, like I said, I don't know.
Were you still here when Huron Road closed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're talking about when the people came together and asked them not to do it, and they did it anyway. So I mean, you still got a church there, you still got that there, but you don't have the emergency center that they wanted to keep there, the trauma center and everything and stuff like that. But the only thing about that is that money has power, and when you have people that's only going to come out in a few, you got the few activists and you got the old folks. The young people ain't coming out. Why? Because there's nobody really to talk to them and get them to say, look, you probably be the one of the ones to get shot. Could be your mama, could be your grandmama, could be somebody that you love. When I'm talking to them, I go down all the way back down to great-grandmama, if I have to. They make them understand this is where she needs to be able to walk without worrying about them. All this stuff that's going on over on 93rd and them over there, 3 women within a week. Within, and they are upset over there, so they talking about some people want to do it. Let's go over there and find out and see who's really involved in that. And you're going to find the elderly is over there, because most of them ain't got nothing to do, so they come out and voice their opinion, but it won't mean nothing, because if you don't have the village, you definitely can't have a community. And if you don't have a community, you got no communication. So.
Okay. How have surrounding institutions and cities impacted the city of East Cleveland? Because we're right here in a certain area that's conducive to...
Cleveland Clinic,
okay.
University Clinic, University. Well, I think that some of the tax money and everything, working with Kevin Conwell, has helped come through. Those buildings that are new up there, what I spoke to about across the street from the library and everything. I don't know if some of that money came from them. It does impact a little bit, when you got people that's working with them that kind of let them know the possibilities of the people being involved with them, and what is it that they doing with the people. I don't know how they got the money for that. But I know that once upon a time, we had university hospital policemen coming in to help with some of the crime that was going on in East Cleveland when I was in there too. But now I don't know what's going on, so I don't know how they really impact. I don't know what they bring in the money. I think that new little clinic that you got up there has something to do with Cleveland Clinic, so that impacts the city, and I think that's a good thing, but how many people that got jobs there from East Cleveland? I doubt it. I don't know.
Okay, we're winding it down.
Okay.
Okay, I got 2 more. What is your vision for future East Cleveland? And tell me about major issues that need addressing in order to better our neighborhood.
My vision for East Cleveland is my vision for all the city of Cleveland and the area is to see God's people rise up and make a change in the community. And the only way that they're going to make a change is they go out and talk to these people individually, talking to them and getting them to understand how important life is, how important it is that you work together to try to build something in order to have something, or you won't have anything. Because every city can be responsible for their growth if they get the kids and the youth and everybody to understand that this is something that you need to be involved in. Because in order for us to have something, you got to be part of it to build it for you to appreciate it. So the vision is that people coming together to build something together. That's best. That's right now to see it happen, to see people working together would be the greatest thing that I could ever see in my last days in time.
Okay, now I know you no longer live in the city of East Cleveland, but what would you be prepared to do because you do have some history here, what would you be prepared to do to help improve our community?
If somebody was to call on me to do anything in East Cleveland to help them, like Margaret Dewar called on me about this little girl that disappeared in East Cleveland. I'm gonna walk through some places. I'm gonna do some praying. I'm gonna find out where her last place was and ask God to show us or to show somebody where this girl is. Whether it be her alive and well or dead. But somebody need to know. Somebody needs to get some closure. You know, but I'll be willing to do anything I could to see life come back into the city. But I've burned some bridges in East Cleveland because I've spoke to some pastors and probably made some of them mad. Because I told them, I said, I can't understand all the partying and no building of the vision of God. And so I really don't care, but if I came back in there and had some hearts and some minds of people that just wanted to lift up the name of the Lord and say, we're gonna build something here. This is our home. I would come back and walk with them. I would pray with them. Do whatever I could with them to try to let them know that the God that I serve, the Lord Jesus Christ, Yahweh, Jehovah, is a God that can rebuild. And he can rebuild it, anything that is broken down, if we just do it in him.
Okay. Well, Chris, I want to thank you for this interview. It was a very good interview. I just want to ask you if you have anything in addition that you would like to add before we close.
Just, I'm honored to have done this, and I pray that people will see it. I hope people will hear what I said, not just the negative things, but just hear everything that I said. Because see, I'm just a person that believes that nothing can be done right unless God is in it. Nothing. I don't care what you say or what you do. We, the people, cannot do it alone. Because there's things that we can't touch that God can move and bring in together. And he can heal the land. And he can heal the people of the land. But that's it.
Thank you very much.